Hello everybody and welcome to today's Restful Beginners Painting class. If you haven't taken my class before, or if you need a reminder, this class is all about rest and growth and skill building. So right now I want you to go ahead and take all the things that are stressing you out off of your shoulders, all of the things that are giving you pressure right now, take those to the side and put them away for the next hour. Today we're going to be learning how to draw and paint rosemary. This is a great addition to your homes. It can be a great gift for your loved ones, but the whole point of this time is not the product at the end. It is all about the time in the middle where we are resting, we are focusing on something lovely, and we are stretching our creative muscles and just growing in that area. So while you're at it, if you haven't already, please go ahead and like this video and subscribe to my channel so you can see when I make new videos, mostly on Fridays in the afternoon. So real fast, I'm going to show you what supplies we need for today, and then we'll get started with our class. Okay, so for today's class, we're going to be using a primary paint palette, which is what we'll use for most classes. So we're going to need our blue, yellow, and red paints, and then also white for mixing. You'll also need a surface to paint on. I've got this thick grade watercolor paper that I'm using, but you can use whatever you have around. And then we have a paintbrush that's about the thickness of my pinky nail, and it has a flat top, then a pencil, a rag to dry off on, and some water to wash your brushes out with. And then of course, as always, get yourself something tasty to drink or eat. I'm drinking some matcha green tea today. And yeah, that's what we have going for us. So if y'all want to pause this video real fast and get all your supplies together, we will get started. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do in every class is we are going to observe what we are drawing. So today we are drawing some dried rosemary. That was my Amazon tap, turning off if you heard that. So we're drawing some dried rosemary today. So we've got some pretty greens. You see some white kind of coming through, so we'll get that lighter green in there. I even see a little bit, I don't know if you can see it, a little bit of like this like purpley color in some of the leaves coming out. It's all on one big stalk that's going up and curving. Each of these individual leaves have a very slender and long form, so we'll play with that also. And then I've kind of arranged them in this little composition. If you want to do something different, that's totally fine, but this is how I'm going to instruct the class. Also, you can't tell, but it smells amazing. So the first thing we're going to start with is our pencils. So we'll draw the base outline and then some of the leaves coming off, and then we'll get into mixing. So I'm going to start up here and get that hook that goes all the way down. You can choose how much of your composition you want to take up, whether you want to do the full page, whether you want to do a smaller portion, but go ahead and we're going to start off with this hook. And so I don't know if you can tell, but what I'm doing is I'm flicking my wrist. So we've talked about this before. We have our finger axes, our wrist axes, our elbow, and then shoulder. So for this kind of curve, we want to use our wrist and fingers together, and then we'll pull with our elbow and shoulder together. So making that curve, and then I'm pulling it down. And now that I've got that line, I'll go back through it. So that's what I've got. This is it a little bit further up close so you can see that line. So just a simple hook coming down. And now I'm going to add in this one right here, and then this guy right here. So let's start off with this one over here. So I'm going to come right here, just below where this hook ends. I'm coming right about here, and then I'm just going to pull him in and curve him. So I use my wrist for that first line, and then I curved him in, just like that. And then with this guy, it's a much more simple flick like that. So I'll just take this right here and use my wrist. So those are our three main lines for today's composition. Nice and easy. So now we're going to add in our green leaves. And so I'm going to do this by drawing some really simple long ovals. So I'll start here. I'm just going to draw a long oval, and what this is going to do is it's going to guide our paintbrushes later, and hopefully will also give us some nice outlines that will add a little dimension to the painting. So I'm just going to add these. One thing that I didn't point out when we were observing our rosemary is that they're all going in an upwards direction. So they're not all going different directions, they're all moving upward and outward. So use the line of your main stems and then just kind of draw some coming out and up. Overlap some and just keep drawing that. So this is what I've done on the middle stem. So I'm just drawing some ovals. There we go. Drawing some ovals, nice and simple, overlapping one another, and just giving that general feel. I'm not going to do all of them because I'm going to have some of them where I just do it with the paintbrush, but I'm giving myself direction by doing a good bit of them with the pencil. This guy right here is going a little bit rogue, so I'm going to play with that and let him go kind of off a little bit. Good job, y'all. Remember, you can always pause this video if you need to. I did this guy coming out a little bit, just like that. So pause this video if I'm going too fast for you. Sometimes I can draw a little bit on the quick side. That just comes from practice, but I kind of forget to slow down to help y'all out. But now that we are on YouTube instead of Instagram Live, we have a little bit more flexibility to where you can slow me down if you need to, but I can keep pace otherwise. So I'm just adding in these ovals, not making it super full like I said before, not completely filling it up, but just hitting the main lines. And we can always make it more full with the paint. And just kind of keep it loose, make it go kind of wonky. We have said this before, but perfection does not exist in nature. And so that frees us all up to make some mistakes, to make some leaves look a little bit fatter than others, some a little bit skinnier than others, some a little oblong. We can play with that because perfection doesn't exist in nature. And so it's going to be more realistic if you just let loose and just make different size shapes. The main thing being that they're long and skinny, and just have them curving different directions at different times. Always pointing up and out. So keep going, hang with me. Okay, and now I'm moving over to this last one, and just keep drawing, keep enjoying whatever music is playing in the background right now. I'm working in silence, but that is just so you can enjoy music later. I do have a little bit of, we have a tin roof at my studio, and so it's raining. I don't know if y'all can hear that if it comes through the audio, but I am getting to enjoy the sound of the rain on the roof right now. So once again, here's this up close so you can look at it. You can see I'm doing all kinds of crazy little ovals. I mean, this one looks kind of like a weird snake. That is okay. It will make for a great rosemary leaf once we add color. Or at least I'm gonna say it will. Whether you are doing this by yourself right now or doing it with a friend, I'm so glad that you have chosen to join me. This all started with just needing something to do when quarantine first hit back in March, and my sister thought it'd be a fun thing for me to do and that I could have friends from different places join me, and it turned out to be one of my favorite things from that whole season. So when that all ended and the live classes were over, we started troubleshooting what the rest of my 2020 was going to look like, and I realized that I wanted to find a way to keep teaching classes, but not in a way to where people had to be available all at the same time anymore, now that we're all back to work and doing, I don't know, normal life things now and don't have completely open schedules. So this YouTube channel seems to be the great solution for that problem, or for that need. Alrighty, so that is my rosemary plant all drawn out. So here's it up close for you. Once again, if you need to pause me right now, go ahead and do it. I will not take offense, I won't even know. So go ahead and pause me if you need to, but I'll start teaching the color mixing for those of y'all who are ready. So we've obviously got our primary paint palette out here, and the reason why I do primary paints is because you can mix anything with these three colors, and you get a richer color and a deeper color, and I just prefer it. I was forced to use a primary color palette for a season where I didn't have the option of pre-mixed colors, and ever since I worked through that, I love the color so much more now, and I just can't go back. So it's also good for beginners with learning, like you're learning color theory as we practice simple paintings. So it's all good. I am a big fan of this, and you can't talk me out of it. So for our rosemary, we said we have some lighter greens, some bluish greens, and some true greens. So let's look at it and decide which one we want to start with. The one I want to start with is that lighter green that we see. So let me see if I can have another one over here so I don't have to destroy the composition. So you can see right here, the stalk itself, there you go, the stalk itself is a nice light green. So we're going to start off with that light green color, and then we will move on from there. So dip your brushes in some water. Actually, hold up 1 second and I'll be right back. Let me grab something. Okay, back with you. Weirdly enough, I was just about to start mixing those colors, and my camera battery was showing as being super dead and about to turn off. So I had to scramble real fast and change that out. So if you see a glitch in the exact framing of the picture right now, that's why. It's because I just had to finagle with my camera. But anyways, we are now ready to get started with mixing our light green. So dip those brushes in water. Just get just a little bit of moisture on there. We're going to take our white. I'm going to take just a little bit of it, pull it right here in the middle, and then I'm going to drag a little bit of yellow and a little bit of blue. There we go. A little bit of blue, and mix that together. So that's a little bit too yellow for me, so I'm just going to grab a little bit more blue, a little bit more white. And so this isn't a super precise mixing way, it's just everyone has different strengths of the paints that they're using. And we just drag a little bit at a time, that way we're not wasting a ton of paint. So I'm going to mix a little bit more water in, and that's going to add to it being a little bit more viscous, a little bit more flowy. Yeah, I think that's pretty good. So this is a color that I've just mixed, and that's for that lighter green. So now we're not going to go over the whole thing, we're just going to do a select few. So I'm going to do parts of the stem, coming down, and where I've drawn, in some places I've drawn the actual, hold up, you can see like right here, I've drawn leaves actually going over the line, so I'm not going over that. So I've just drawn a little bit of that light green going in around in dots some of this main stem, and we're going to do the same thing on the other two real fast. So don't cover the whole thing, just do parts. And another trick for you, so what I'm doing to get a firmer, a more consistent line is I plant my wrist on the paper and then I glide like this. That way I'm keeping my brush at the same distance from the paper at all times, and I'm not trying to hover and make a straight line, because then you kind of get those like gloppy moments, right? So planting and then drawing the line is going to give us a much smoother line. So that's just a fun tip for you to help you out as you progress and grow in this gift and in this exercise. So just choose moments for it to go down on all 3 stems. Okay. Now I'm going to mix a little bit more a little bit more white in, and make it an even lighter color. So I'm just taking white directly to the color I've already mixed and blending that in. Okay. Now, one thing that happens sometimes when we do all that mixing, here's the color, so it's a little bit lighter. I'm sorry, my camera's not focusing for y'all. I'll figure this out. But it gets a little clumpy, and that will translate to being really clumpy on the actual paper. So, wash your brush off after you mix the color you like, and then you fold it in between your rag or dishcloth, whatever you're using, and then you just pull it. And that will give you a nice, sharp, straight line. That's so pretty. Gosh, I love it. Okay, so now that I've got a nice, sharp, straight line, I'm going to go in with some of these leaves, starting at the base and filling them in, just like that. So not all of them, just some of them. So I'm putting the point at the base, pulling it up, and bringing it back. Nice and simple. Not doing them right next to each other, not doing them, all of them. I'm just going in with some of these and adding in just a nice line and filling in the outlines I've already drawn. Y'all are doing great. Okay, I'd be surprised if you can't hear the rain right now. It feels so loud to me right now. It's one of those things, I think it's so romantic. I don't know, I'm listening to Anne of Green Gables, so I'm going to think everything's romantic. But I think it's like, I like the idea of a tin roof. It just feels, I don't know, more natural, more interesting. And it's great when I want silence. But if I'm listening to a book or a movie or even music and it starts to rain, it all gets completely drowned out. C'est la vie. Okay, keep filling in little bits, little moments. Remember, you can always pause me if I move too fast. And be careful as you plant your wrist on things, be careful not to plant it on wet paint. So you can always, put my paper to my mouth, you can always turn your painting as you need to make sure that you are not sticking your palm in wet paint and moving that around. And if you've already made that mistake, and I warned you too late, you can always add another stalk and another leaf and just kind of fill it in. Or you can wait a few minutes and paint over it with white. You have many options. But that by no means means you have ruined the painting. Okay. All right, I am happy with that for right now. I actually think I'm going to get even a shade lighter. So mix some more white. Grab a little water if you need to. Different people's paints will dry at a different speed. Acrylic paint dries quickly though. So you might need to add water into different colors as you go. That's not an issue. You'll get the feel of it and know when you need to add more. Okay. Because I just want that center stem line, I just want a little bit more lightness to it. So I'm mixing a lighter color. This is the color I mix now, so you can see the difference. I'm gonna fold and pull to make sure I have a nice sharper line. And now I'm just gonna go back on that center stem and do a nice thin line going over the places where I had done a light green, but it wasn't as light as I wanted it to be. That's the beauty of paint, y'all. is that if you decide that you don't like something, wait a few minutes and the paint will dry and you can go over it and try again. So there are really very few mistakes you can make that you can't undo. Speaking of dragging colors, I don't know if you can see right here, I've just dragged that color. So I will repair that very easily by sticking my paintbrush in some paint and creating another leaf. And now it's all gone. So while we've got this lighter color, go ahead and draw a few lines going. They can either be ones that you've already drawn out, or they can be new ones. But what we are doing is we are just creating dimension with our colors, with lighter and darker greens. This makes it look more real, more three-dimensional, more interesting. And you can see with the actual leaves themselves, they are not one color green all the way around. So different ones are different colors. They've got moments where they are lighter, moments where they are darker. So we are just following the cues of the actual plant and just building color by color. Okay. All right, good job, y'all. You can wipe off your brushes. Okay, now we're going to do one of the darker greens. So I'm still going to work with this little bit of white that's left over, this light green, and I'm just going to build into it. So I'm going to take more yellow, like that, more blue, and drag it in. We'll just mix those two together. And I just swirl, I do a circle, and then I flatten. And so I'm just kind of making it mix nice and good. Okay, that's pretty. And I'll show you all the color before I wipe my brush off. So this is the color we're dealing with now. All right, wipe that brush off if you need to. And we're doing the same thing. Pick some other colors, some other leaves that you've drawn, maybe some that you haven't, and just fill it in. I need a little bit more water in mine, so I'm just adding that in, just to make it flow a little bit better. And with this green, you can go over the top of other colors that you've painted and just layer on top, because this green is a pretty strong color, and so it'll actually bear the weight of, like, it's not going to be see-through. There it is. And remember, you can rotate your paper if you need to. This is looking good, y'all. You don't have to fill in all of them. Right now we're going to do one more. I say one more. It might be more than one more. We're going to do some deeper greens and some more details added in. So fill in as you want. We will keep building, and you can always change your mind and go over one of the leaves you've already done with a different color. There is freedom. Okay. Oh, y'all, this is looking so good, right? Okay, so now we're gonna do more of that olivey color. Let me see if I can show you. I think these guys have it more. So you can see there's more of like a purpley green in here too, which is so cool. So we're gonna mix that now, and that's why, if you were confused why I still had red on the palette today, even though this is obviously a green flower, we're gonna take a little bit of red, oh, hold it less, so just a dab of red, and mix it in with that green color. So I need to mix a little bit more because I don't have enough left over, so I'm gonna get back to that green, and then add just a touch of red. I'll show you in a second when I have that color right. But we're not trying to make a true brown, which is what these three colors together make. We're just trying to make more of a purpley green, if there is such a thing. Okay, I think that's about right for me. Yeah, that's looking good. Okay, this is the color I've mixed. So you see, not straight purple, but it's green with just a dab of red to kind of give a little bit more of that richness. And that is primarily on the points of leaves, with a few leaves completely covered. So that's why I've left just a couple. So I'll do this one right here and pull it down. And I'll fill in those few left that haven't been done at all. I'm loving this, y'all. Okay, and do just a couple. And you've probably realized by now that the thickness of your brush is perfect for just one or two pulls to make the same shape. So now that you're comfortable with the shape and the size of your rosemary leaves, you can go ahead and start creating your own. And even just putting a little bit on the tips of some. So with this one right here, I just put a little bit right here on the edge and dragged it down one line and kept the other line, the other color there. So adding just a little bit of dimension. Do it to your comfort level. And like I said before, you can always do it, realize it was a mistake, and then go back over it later. So let's do a few here. And we're just building with this color, the same shapes that we've been doing. Put a little bit on the points, drag a little bit on the stem if you want. Because I'm noticing that these stems are getting darker towards the base. So I'm just adding a little bit on that stem to add some intrigue, add some information. Ooh, I just definitely dipped my wrist in paint. Sometimes it's so wet that you can't even help but miss it, but realize that you've done it. Okay, a few more lines. We're just adding detail. Y'all are doing great. Okay, and only you can see your composition right now, so only you can know what your painting needs. So just take a second, look at your painting, look at mine, look at this original picture, and just kind of weigh out what needs some work on it. So when I look at mine, I realize that this middle stalk has a good amount of darker green, and this wider stalk does too. But this one right here, I've kind of neglected. So I'm gonna go back in and add a few more petals, or leaves, or whatever you wanna call them. Feel free to tell me in the comments what they're called. Add a few more on this strand right here, and I'm gonna do it in the darker color, and I'm just gonna add them. So I'm not gonna cover over what's already been done, I'm gonna add in new ones. I like this curlicue right here, so I'm gonna add that in right around here. Just like that. I think this would be a great painting to put up in your kitchen, to give to a family member who likes to cook a lot. It's one of those things that would be a fun gift that way. Okay, how are y'all looking? Beautiful. I really love this. Alrighty, y'all. Well, you keep working and keep playing. I'll probably keep doing the same. But let me pull this up for you so you can look at what I've got. So this is what my painting looks like. Fairly simple. You can always build on it if you want to. But it's a nice starter for Rosemary. Let me get that square for you. Yeah, really lovely, really enjoyable. I'm going to keep piddling around with mine and playing with it. You should do the same with yours. Yeah. Okay, so for those of you who maybe want to keep this painting and elevate it a little bit, one fun thing that you can do is to write the name of the herb at the base of the painting. But I recognize, and I'm sure you are well aware, that not all of us are natural born calligraphers, and maybe we didn't ace penmanship in elementary school. So I've come up with a little cheat of a way that you can add the name to the base of your painting without having to rely on your own handwriting. So what I've done is I have printed off the name Rosemary from my printer, and I just picked a font that I personally liked for my aesthetic, but you can of course choose something else according to yours. And so what I'm doing now is I can kind of see through the printer paper, and I am placing the name where I want it on the painting. And so now I'll just take a ballpoint pen, bear down hard, and trace out all the letters in the name Rosemary. So the point is, the main thing that you need to get is to bear down nice and hard, because what we're going to be using to draw with is that indentation that you leave. You can't really see it here, but I can see it in person, and you'll be able to see it on your painting as well. So get that indentation nice and deep, and then take a Sharpie, an artist pen, and gel pen. Just definitely don't try it with paint. Take one of those and just slowly carefully trace out your letters, and then you can always go back and touch it up and fill in the lines that maybe you weren't as pleased with and you want to get a little bit fixed. Take your time, it's totally worth it. It's a nice little ending note for your painting. So here it is up close. I hope you're happy with your paintings. I am definitely happy with mine. Alright guys, that's a wrap on today's class. Thank you so much for joining with me and sticking with me through the end. I hope your finished product is lovely, but I hope even more that your time during this class period was restful and refreshing for you today. If you have any questions on how to get your pieces finished and little things along the way that you had questions about on how to paint Rosemary, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to help talk you through it. It's one of my favorite parts of teaching classes, helping you get to the finished product that you love. If you haven't already, please go ahead, like and subscribe to my channel so you can get notified whenever I make new classes, and comment also below on next classes that you would like to take, what you would like to learn how to paint and draw. Thank you again for joining me. I have had a great time, and I hope you have too. I'll see you next time.